my fellow Americans, it is time to take our freedom back.
John, how's it going, man?
It's another great day to be alive. Running skeleton crew today, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of lonely here. We got Carlos out of town. Lani will be here in a minute. So, but we got plenty to talk about. So what do we want to kick off with?
I wanted to show this short video of Representative Clay Higgins from Louisiana, kind of drawing a line in the sand, and I think he gives people courage because I think he's speaking the truth with this. Let's play this short little clip and we'll talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the oppressor's intent is for you to comply with their mandates and commands. They don't expect for you to comply with their commands until the end of COVID. They expect you to comply with their commands until the end of time. Let me be very clear to all you oppressors. You've drawn a line in the sand. Be prepared to defend your position, because some of us are free Americans and we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. If you want to get a vaccine, get it. If you don't. That's called freedom. Freedom is what's at stake, and some of us are prepared to carry that fight with every drop of our blood. On January the 3rd, 2023, Republicans will be sworn into the majority in this House behind us here. The hallowed halls of Congress shall once again be under the control of Republican conservatives. On that day, myself and many of my colleagues will introduce legislation to reinstate my military brothers and sisters with full pay back into your rank. So stay hard, stay strong, stay in shape. We're going to get you back in your slot. And to my business brothers and sisters out there, do not comply. Use Article 3. Put your attorneys to work. Stand your ground. You have about a year to make it and survive. You can do it, but stand for freedom, and you'll find yourself in the company of patriots from sea to shining sea.
Wow.
I love that video.
Man, how come I've never seen that guy before?
I don't know. I'd never seen it before, but I had to throw him out there and just give him some props for being such a stand-up guy and not worrying about, the heat he's going to take from being, saying that kind of talking about holding the line and everything. So it was pretty exciting to see people like this, representatives that represent we the people, that are willing to stand up for what's right. And, pretty awesome, man. But that's Representative Clay Higgins out of Louisiana.
Clay Higgins, and he looks like a gangster too. Man, I like the fedora and
the sunglasses the whole time. No nonsense.
Yeah, I don't think he was messing around either. I think he meant it.
Yeah,
I think he's speaking the truth, man. I mean, if you can look at the what happened in Virginia, you can look at what happened in New Jersey, you can look at But if you look at what's happening worldwide, I mean, we have the media is not going to show you this stuff. The mainstream media, I mean, there's a lot of alternative medias out there that are showing the truth, but you got to dig for it. You got to be searching for it. It's not going to just be spoon fed to you. But I mean, if you're out there doing the digging, there is resistance going on all over the world. I mean, millions of people. I just read a study. There's about 500 million people that are, resisting tyranny worldwide, which, I'm pretty excited about. I think that the tides are turning, and I think these people who have pulled the biggest Ponzi scheme off in the history, as far as I'm concerned, is our modern history, is probably the biggest scam that's ever, happened. And I think their Ponzi scheme is going to collapse like a house of cards.
Yeah. It'll be a lot of reversal stuff they put in motion, though, because they put so much in motion. it's going to be a lot to unwind, but
Oh, absolutely.
I think it will.
Yeah, the supply chain's not just going to fix itself overnight.
No, and the jobs and people that had to shift careers and people that are moving state to state and all the different effects that are going on. It's going to take a little bit to correct.
It's kind of like it's a lot easier to get out of shape than it is to get back into shape after being. It's a lot more work to get it back than it is to lose it. But hey, play that video about resistance worldwide going on. I just want to throw this out there real quick.
Where's this from? Just yeah.
Those of you who are listening, and not watching this, we're showing a video of people in all over the world: Australia, England, New Zealand, the United States, Spain,
Italy,
millions of people,
Portugal,
Switzerland,
everywhere, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot more people resisting this than what the mainstream media is gonna let you know about. That's for sure. Morocco, Italy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
wow.
That makes me excited when I see this kind of stuff, because we're not alone in this. This is a worldwide agenda, and it seems I'm pretty happy to see all these people just resisting all over.
Well, a lot of those countries were locked down even tighter than we were. I think that's why you're seeing those kinds of crowds, there versus here. We're not getting crowds that big.
Well, I mean, there's been some in New York that are huge, and we haven't, but now they're pushing harder in New York with the vaccine passports and telling you can't go to the restaurants, and they're already restricting all kinds of everyday type of activities where they're creating a two-tier society, where you can't participate in everyday life if you are not vaccinated in New York. So you are seeing, I wouldn't have expected to see such a big pushback in New York, but there's some really big crowds out there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're tired of garbage piling up in the street, and fire stations closing, and a good percentage of the police force is getting forced out right now.
Yeah.
How'd you like to be in one of those places, Be like, it looks like a third world country. Some of the blocks and stuff they showed, almost even worse than the homeless camps we have down in Long Beach and stuff.
Really?
It's just straight out garbage.
Yet. Oh, really?
Yeah.
In New York because of the walkouts on the services?
Yeah.
Oh, there were one video, I've got, maybe I could send it over here in a little bit, but there's a video out of everybody dumping their garbage at de Blasio's property. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, because there's nobody picking up their garbage, so they're just hauling it to Bill de Blasio's house.
Every race, color, and creed, man. It was not, it was a nonpartisan, it was just all different groups of people. Like, screw that, we're going to take it to your place then, de Blasio. And they just started throwing their garbage over the freaking fence. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, and, I think I want to be accurate about the joy of it. It's like you're saying, you're excited. Well, it's just people resisting it. We all came together because we just resisted it in our own little business, our own little worlds. And then we could see it coming. It's like, hey, get ready. We're going to resist now. Do not comply, as that representative said. That's how we're resisting. So here, though you may not be joining a rally, stop complying. Stop being complicit to it. Start pushing back, whatever that looks like. Because otherwise we're going to end up in the street like this, where everything's shut down and trash is piling up. I'd rather do before that personally, but I don't know where everybody else is.
Oh yeah, no, it's exciting, and way past due. Should have done it right off, But the media has just done such a good job in keeping the fear factor alive. Can you imagine if somebody would have told you last March or April that, hey man, next November this is still going to be going on and it's even going to be worse than it is now, you would have never believed it.
Yeah, no.
You'd have said, no way would Americans put up with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What was it? Austria I saw is shutting down.
Yep.
You know, they're locking everybody down, and it's like 69% vaccinated. And I mean, what are you doing? It's just crazy.
Out in the Netherlands are doing lockdown stuff out there again, and I was had a business meeting with a gentleman from the Netherlands. It was about a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Oh, I think next year everything will go back to normal." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's because everything was starting to get better and start to get better, but that's what they do. They give you a little bit of freedom, and then they clamp back down on you." And from what I understand, pretty much everybody in the Netherlands is vaccinated for the most part. Because my friend flew out there, and you know he does a lot of millions and millions of dollars of business with these guys, and they do a lot of trading back and forth, and they had to hire a special doctor to fly to come around and test him like all the time.
Really?
Yeah, so because everybody else was vaccinated. He was like some freak show, but he's like, "Hey, dude, I'm not vaxxed. I'm not going to get a vax."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, hey, we'll just hire this." I mean, that's how much they landed at the freaking soccer game in a helicopter, like high roller type stuff.
Yeah,
but they had to hire a doctor to follow him around and test him every so often. It's freaking.
Well, it's kind of like fishing. These tyrants, you know, they're reeling us in. Well, they can't just lock the reel and just hog us out of the water, man, because the line will break, you know. So they gotta let you. They gotta give, and then they get more, and then give a little, get more.
That's a good analogy.
Because people get used to it. I mean, I talk to people all the time. They're just kind of getting where it just feels, well, maybe this is just the new normal, you know.
Yeah. Well, on the mask thing too, even that still sticking around. It definitely seems like the minority when I go out, though.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of employers, you can tell when the employees are all wearing them, except for a few, you know, there might be weirdness there. But yeah, just the psychology. You know, we were in meetings last week that talked about how it's affecting the teens and the youth. And this is the long-term effects of this. Yeah, the vaccine, because we don't know what that's going to be, but also just the psychology for these kids.
Yeah.
The masking alone. And none of it's working. All their techniques have not worked.
No,
it's been just sustaining. You know, you'll get your freedom back when you do this. It's just, you know, the fishing line's great analogy, or the slave to master analogy. I mean, they're real when you start unpacking them a little bit. It's like, dude, that's blatant. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not your slave. I want to get shirts made. I'm a servant to my people, but I'm not a slave. Ever.
No.
Never. Ever. You start treating me like a slave, I'm going to start pushing back hard.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what they're doing. They're just not giving choice, and, you know, it's just painful. And then all the testing that's coming down the pipe too, and how employers, you know, they're saying, okay, you have to test all your people. You know, so that was a guy in CHP I talked to. Well, they gave them all expired testing kits. They gave them no training to do it. You know, it's like, it's just logistically not even possible. You know, they're not staffing everything. We've talked about that before, but it's like so many failed attempts at what they're doing with this thing. Nothing's working.
Yeah, and some of those tests now, they're saying some of them are dangerous. A doctor was telling Emily, because she was saying that she's going to have to be testing to keep teaching out at the high school. And he said, well, be careful which kind you use, because some of them have, and I forget the name of the material. It almost sounded like the graphene oxide, but that's a carcinogenic on there. So don't be using those. Tell them you want.
And that's going to go
safe.
Right into your system. Going up your nose like that. And then just the damage it does to your sinuses.
The mechanical damage,
Yeah.
Well, according to one of my buddies that's a teacher, they're required by law to offer a saliva test.
Yeah.
But it inconveniences them a little bit, so you have to be willing to inconvenience them.
Yeah,
well, they're inconveniencing you, so you might as well send it.
So I found out this morning that one of the COVID test facilities is being investigated for selling the DNA. So apparently they're taking your swabs, and they know who you are, and then they're selling that DNA to third party. And they got caught, and so now they were saying, "Oh, we're doing it to try to better help human, science and stuff like this." But it's just like, what? That's not your DNA.
No,
it's just like, when did the scam stop with this stuff?
Yeah.
Now I talked to a guy the other night at the Freedom Coalition meeting, and he sounds like he's in HR for Caltrans, and they're basically telling him, to update. I mean, if you're going to apply here, you have to be vaccinated, or don't bother, And they're telling him to ask people that are applying, and he won't. So he feels like it's just a matter of time. He was fired up, man.
Oh,
it's like, I'm not asking him that, And so he's gotten called in, and I talked to one of his coworkers that said, "Oh yeah, they called him in and chewed his butt." And he said, "Well, I'm not doing it. You do whatever you have to do, And he's just a young guy. I mean, early 20s. I think he's an immigrant. He sounded British. Come here to America, the greatest, freest country in the world, and barely get a job going, and they're trying to turn you into a Marxist right off the get-go.
Yeah, it's interesting. These
good
people
for him. Resist it.
These people that come from communism, and they know it firsthand, and they come here, they came here before all this COVID stuff, and our freedoms and liberties have been eroding over, the years. But I mean, in the last couple of years, I mean, it's just happening so fast. But I mean, the people I know that are from other countries who come from, communist countries, they're like, they know exactly what's going on, and they're blown away. They're like, man, I didn't come to America for this.
Yeah. No way. Well, how do we keep turning the tides? That's the discussion, right? The Freedom Coalition's a big deal. School boards are getting big pushback.
School boards. So this is the resolution that the Cottonwood Creek Charter School adopted last Tuesday. And I won't read the whole thing, but it has some bullet points that I believe that the regular Cottonwood Union School District, they're saying that they're going to adopt it, I think, tomorrow night at their board meeting too, or they're going to vote on it. So, but the bullet points say Cottonwood Creek Charter School lacks the legal authority to mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for students. The benefits of the COVID-19 vaccine do not outweigh the potential harm for students.
So simple.
Yeah. The right to informed consent should not be ignored. A vaccination mandate discriminates against students and staff who have recovered from COVID-19.
Yep.
A COVID-19 vaccination mandate would infringe upon the Cottonwood Creek Charter School students and staff's fundamental right to bodily integrity. And a COVID-19 vaccine mandate would also infringe upon the students' fundamental right to an education. Cottonwood Creek Charter School cannot justify the burden of COVID-19 mandate to support such a blatant and serious infringement of its students' fundamental rights. So, I mean, there's a lot more in there, but that's the main gist. That's the main body of the resolution. And
so with that, they're just going to not follow the mandates. They're just going to operate how they see fit.
They are.
Yeah.
And so, one piece of news that's kind of leaking right now is the guy, and I don't remember if he's a state senator or an assemblyman in California, but his last name's Pan. He's the guy that wrote it into law a few years ago that there's no religious or medical exemptions for vaccines for school.
Right.
And because up to that point they would accept the exemptions, but he is writing one right now that's going to write COVID-19 into that. Yeah. Into that. And so what's kind of coming down the pike now is after they saw the amount of kids, the percentage of kids that stayed home, especially in the rural areas, 40-50% of kids stayed home.
Right.
In some areas it was 70-80%. And, so say in the cities it was way less, but I'll bet you it was still 10, 12, 20% of the kids.
Cut it in half, that'd be 20.
Sure. So once they saw that, all of a sudden now they say even Newsom and some of the powerful Democrats in the state Senate are telling this guy to kind of back off. Let's just leave it a mandate instead of making it law. Because once they make it law, that changes everything. Yep. But as long as it's a mandate, then the schools can accept exemptions.
Right.
And that's what schools need to know. So they can basically just accept all exemptions. Just let everybody know that, hey, we're just going to consider you exempt unless you state otherwise.
Yeah.
Kind of reverse it on them.
So, what's wild is no kids are dying from this. You know what I mean? We want, what is there, 80 million, how many people are from 5 to 11? I think that, maybe 60 million or something like that, or maybe it's
I don't remember.
Or I forget. I was looking. Anyways, there's obviously tens of millions of kids that are between 5 and 11, and we want these kids to get vaccinated for what? None of them are dying.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, where's the logic in this? And they're adding, and this is really wild, but they're adding tromethamine, okay, which is a drug that is used to treat heart attack victims, okay? It combats blood acidity. But, I mean, why are they adding a heart attack medication into this vaccine that is for 5 to 11-year-olds? You know what I mean? This is insane.
That implies that it causes heart issue.
Common sense
immediately.
Common sense would tell you they're trying to prevent symptoms from happening. At least I don't know if it's going to
counteract
be a long-term type thing, but at least for the short term, put a Band-Aid on it to where these kids don't start dropping dead. But I mean, I don't know why else you would add a heart attack medication into a kid's. I mean, when do kids get heart attacks? 5 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah, strokes and heart attacks all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Hey, can you pull that thing up, Eli? I just texted you.
So on that school thing, though, it's really what's interesting about that and what you're mentioning about kind of the leak out effect. Just to go back to that. Sorry, John, and we'll get your video rolling. But we won't ever probably know the conversations in the background. Right. But I'm wondering if that has to do with the but the teachers union effect on the recall election and everything. That's why you saw the divide. The unions that I was just told this by another union member in the not in the unions that I'll mention, but corrections contributed to Newsom's recall campaign in his favor. So did the teachers union. Well, corrections said we don't want the mandate, so they're not getting it. And then the teachers union said we want it and we want the kids to have it because we don't want to get sick. And that's what we're seeing that agenda play out. Well, when you play out that agenda just 3 steps down the line, you start shutting down schools, you're starting to shut down union jobs.
Even if the school doesn't shut all the way down, but say you lose 25% of the staff because of less students, I think they're finally realizing.
Yeah, they're realizing, oh, wait, we can't just push this on the people over here. Yeah. So, and it could be strategy, who knows, in the background. Newsom knew it. He took the dollars. Yeah, I'll placate to him, and then I'll shift this stuff around. And we're just sitting back going through a whirlwind of what they're going to actually bring down the pipe. But he has to make it look like, well, I just got those campaign dollars, so I'll make it look like I'm going with what you did. But, it's all this strategy in the background where it's like, if we strip all that back and get back to people that just want to serve, I know that's purist to think, but we've got to move that direction. And it is a lot harder to get back in shape. We're kind of fat, and we've got fat egos and fat people up top, but we need to get back to those that are skinny and aren't getting in those positions to just be swampy. They actually want to serve, make California a better place. It's a great place.
It is.
So get rid of those people.
And I wanted to mention before I forget, that's what happens when you get my age. You got to, when a thought pops in your head, you just got to shoot it out there. But did you guys see where they rated or graded the hospitals in California?
No, I didn't see that.
So one of my customers was just telling me that, so they graded these hospitals, and Mercy Medical Center got a D on a A through F grading system. And the other one in town got an A. Is it Shasta Regional?
Shasta Regional?
Yeah.
Really?
It got an A.
Interesting.
And it's kind of funny. You got one that's running off all their help.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's a.
I wonder what that's. Yeah, I always wonder what those ratings. What's behind it?
I know. I don't know
how they classify them or what.
I wonder what they would have rated before they got all the good people who now don't work there, and they got all these people trying to fill in for really important jobs like Josh's, who's a perfusionist. Who they got doing his job now? What about all these other great nurses and doctors and people that aren't going to comply with getting the vaccine, and now they're not there anymore. I know my business would suck. I mean, if I had half the staff that I do right now, and I was trying to just throw whoever in there that was willing, to
it'd be
comply.
such a train wreck if I lost my people.
Oh, it would be horrible. I mean, it takes a long time to build. I mean, to get everything running smooth, and it's constant maintenance to keep everything running smooth. And then,
yeah.
I
mean, it's probably a lot. You would lose a lot of your best too, because they would be the free thinkers and the leaders.
They're independent thinking, critical thinking. That's why you have them in more dynamic roles, which are going to be leadership roles. So you blast them out of there.
I just wanted to finish up my point earlier about the heart attack medication being added to children for 5 to 11's vaccine, which is kind of fishy to me. And obviously, if you're a detective, you can come up with your own motive behind that. But so I just wanted to ask the question: how many kids do you know that have myocarditis, pericarditis, strokes, heart attacks, blood clots, functional neurology disorder, Bell's palsy, spontaneous deaths? Okay, how many do you know? I'm asking you as the listeners, and because we can look at data and everything, but I'm just saying, let's take a mental note right now of how many people do we know that have these problems? It's zero. You don't know anybody from 5 to 11 that's dealing with any of this stuff. So I'm just curious to see, and after all these kids are getting jabbed, how many, let's see what happens to that number,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good thing, just to kind of note status at different, time stamps of different statuses of our health. Because, if you start, even when it started, we were tracking deaths. Then it went to cases. Then it went to this. Now it's unvaccinated versus vaccinated. We're just a rabbit trail. We're bouncing all over the place. And I think, I haven't checked it in the last 7 days, but it seemed like Shasta County was on the decline, where that comes as news, right after they were slamming Shasta County for our vaccination rates. And I'm thinking, now our cases are falling. Maybe the natural immunity that a ton of people have been talking about is working, Well, how else would our numbers be dropping and everyone else is going? But I haven't tracked it that tight because it's just kind of hard to read between the lines of what they're actually recording and documenting.
It's hard.
The news always spins it a little bit, and it's, so it's just hard. It's really hard to track it. You have to really be dedicated.
I'm always asking the people at the that work at the hospitals, hey, you guys, what are you seeing? And they always know the exact numbers of how many COVID patients there are and stuff like that. The ones that I talk to, but I think we're going to see, a lot more people, especially with the hospitals, where we're going to, Shasta Regional Medical is probably going to have to pick up some slack for Mercy, because people probably aren't going to want to go to Mercy if they're getting graded a D and they're not getting the service you want. So they're going to be overwhelmed from that. And then Mercy being dysfunctional and not running at optimum level is probably going to be having their issues also, So I think on a global scale, we're going to be seeing a lot more people getting sick this year because of ADE and people who are vaccinated, their immune systems are dropping at 3 to 7% a week right now on average. So we're going to see. I don't think the boosters are going to cut it, but hey, this is just my opinion. But we'll see what happens. But I think I think last year was, for the most, it was a hoax. There was a lot of actors going to hospitals and acting like they were overwhelmed, and then you go there 10 minutes after the live broadcast and there's nobody there. Everybody doing the TikTok dancing, you know what I mean? And the empty hospitals, they were preventing people from going to the hospital because they were overwhelmed. But then everybody I know that was going to the hospitals was saying how there was nobody there and how it was great, that it was like nobody was there. But I think that's going to be, my prediction is that this is going to be a rough winter myself.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are bracing for that. Not only the mandate stuff coming down the pipe, but, people are, even if you just take stress, which crushes your natural immune system and the levels that we've been dealing with now for 2 years, it's going to be a tough go, So, from my standpoint, owning the gym and monitoring all my members and people's health, it's, good sleep, low sugar, trying to do the basics, get your vitamin D when the sun's out, drink a lot of water, because I've read a lot of studies that talk about cold and flu season, that one of the setups is all our holidays. We blast ourselves with candy on Halloween, which lasts about 2 weeks, which just crushes immune system. And then, you're not getting the vitamin D and the ultraviolet rays killing all the viruses on surfaces. And then you overeat Thanksgiving, you go hibernate, you go around a bunch of people. It's like this whole recipe when we're low in vitamin D, which is huge for immunity. You're just natural immunity, cold, flu, everything. So there's this recipe during the holidays that we, got it. Just be mindful of. If you want to take action, that's another way to defy this thing, is just fortifying your own body. I've been saying that from the beginning, but we've talked about that natural remedy, recipe. Like now is a time to reinvigorate that into your lifestyle so that you can get through this holiday season, strong. I'm doing some solid food vacations, which is juicing, which makes everyone's head pop, but it's really good for your system. It's high mineral content, vitamins, everything, and it shuts down your gut, which where a ton of your immune it comes from, and it lets everything kind of reset. And you don't have to do something super extreme. Maybe it seems extreme to a lot of people, but 24 hours, 48 hours, different stuff like that. Start looking something up. Create a little challenge in your family. Do something, with your workplace so that you're bolstering yourself against what's coming down the line, mentally, physically, everything. Otherwise, we just sit back stressed, waiting for the next mandate, waiting for, is the vaccine going to work for those vaccinated, unvaccinated, who's got the cases and all that other stuff. Like, take the action now. So,
well, I have a buddy that's religious about juicing. Old Dan Scoville that was on the show every morning. I mean, it's lots of greens, beets, turmeric, cinnamon. He has this kind of a recipe, that he throws in there every day. Yeah. And he's been doing it for about 2 years now, and he swears by it. Yeah. He said it changed his life.
Mother Nature's amazing, and there's all different. I mean, there's thousands of different options, and a lot of different herbs and that's plants that do the same thing. And that's why Lonnie's like, hey, do your research, because it's not like there's, this is the way. Yeah. There's like so many different ways from different cultures, and this is common knowledge for centuries and thousands of years, that people have been using Mother Nature. Totally.
And food discipline, that's the seed bed for a lot of other areas to be disciplined. So if you're moving into these times and you're going to be hogging down on Thanksgiving, just maybe do a little bit of prep, flexing that discipline muscle so that you can taper off and not just hog out until New Year's, from now till New Year's. And then I get all the people waving into the gym. I got a New Year's resolution. I just gained 20 pounds over the holidays. I'm like, all right. Then they go back, lose 20 pounds, and they're back out of the gym. I'm like, come on. Stay with it.
Some of them don't make it a week. They'll come a couple days and they're just like, oh yeah, that's not for me.
I don't have time for that.
Or we could just disregard all that stuff and just get vaccinated over and over and over and over. So the third dose increases immunity. So after the fourth dose, you're protected. Once 80% of the population has received the fifth dose, the restrictions can be relaxed, and the sixth dose stops the virus from spreading. I'm calm and believe that the seventh dose will solve our problems, and we will have no reason to fear the eighth dose. The clinical phase of the ninth dose confirms that the antibodies remain stable after the 10th dose, and the 11th dose guarantees that no new mutations will develop. So there's no longer any reason to criticize the idea of a 12th dose.
Yeah.
Who'd that come from?
I'm not quite sure, but it's just something that popped up. Yeah. I thought it was funny though.
Yeah. Yeah. And thinning the herd. Hey, it's happening right now. If you're going to just keep taking those shots, you might be the one getting thin. Start considering that.
So they admitted that, that the vaccine doesn't reduce transmission,
they have admitted that now.
I mean, they've admitted.
Said it, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're all admitting it. It's just like they're telling us it's a scam. I mean, and now they're going to tell you, hey, you just got to get a booster shot, a booster shot, a booster shot. I mean, get vaccinated once, get it twice, get it 3 times. Now they're already pushing the 4th one. Other countries are even I think Israel's on their 6th one getting pushed.
Are they 6th already?
They're at least
thought they were 3 or 4.
They're
a month
I remember
ago
when they got
something.
their 4th. Yeah.
So they're working on their 5th one then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're
how do I get a double dose of grit to people right now? How do I give them some grit? Is that coming a shot? Can we bottle that real quick?
Well, the thing is people have died from the flu and pneumonia all through human history. Yeah. And I mean, what percentage of your friends get a flu shot?
I have no idea. I don't ask. None of my business.
But I mean, very few that I know that talk about it. I've had a few guys say, "Oh yeah, well I got one once, but then I was sick all winter." So
I've heard more of those stories. Maybe because they want to verbalize that.
Exactly. But I mean, they weren't fearful, even though flu could kill you.
Yeah.
In fact, among children, you were talking about kids not getting it. This came out at that congressional hearing that Ron Johnson put on. He said that 400 kids have died of COVID in 2020 and 2021 combined. It's 400. In 2019, in 1 year, 480 kids died from the regular flu.
Right.
So they basically have twice as hard a time with the regular flu.
Right.
And yet parents aren't rushing out getting their kids flu shots.
What do we have, like one flu case this year? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Well, and then when you, okay, exactly what you just said, how does the leader of California come to a conclusion that he needs to mandate vaccines for kids then? Because nothing supports that. And they won't release their numbers of why. Campaign dollars supports that theory. If the teachers union were saying, I want all the kids are pushing it, which would be interesting to substantiate. Who knows, backdoor conversations and rumor or hearsay, so I don't know. But you see that they wanted early on, they were some of the first that I saw in California doing vaccine passports or testing passports and all that different stuff to get in schools. They're having kids present a piece of paper just to get to school. So that was one of the first places that really got crazy about it. So it does make sense, that part. It still doesn't make sense to actually mandate it. The governor should be able to be insulated from that type of pressure, but here we are.
Well, and I've even heard of kids telling their parents, man, I just want to get it so that things will be normal for me.
I know.
And that's because that's what's being pushed to them at school.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just come up with that on their own.
That's the long game of
pressure.
Parents. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then the parents are trying to convince the kid not to. It's creating a lot of difficulty and strife, because
how are they going to keep spinning this thing, because they tell you, it's all going to go back to normal if you just get vaccinated. And then it's like, people got to be realizing now, it's like, well, I got double vaccinated. I got a booster. Now I got to get another booster.
And I'm still wearing my mask.
Yeah. And then, and it doesn't prevent transmission. It doesn't prevent me from dying. I still got to wear my mask. Life was supposed to go back to normal because I was a good servant, a good peasant, and got my double, triple jab. And here we are still living in fear.
And it's also very short-sighted. You got to check that for a second because people are saying, well, this job right now I have or my career. Well, we don't know anything long-term for this thing. No one ever has claimed long-term effects. It's never been talked about.
No, they know in the animal trials.
Right, which is why all these style of vaccines have died in animal trials. They couldn't get them through, all the SARS vaccines and all that history that we have. So now you have people for the short term getting the shot, and it's like, it just crushes me because I'm thinking, gosh, that's your daughter. You got to fight that tooth and nail. Yeah, because she's still, even in her 20s, may not have that fortitude to go, what about kids down the line? What about birth defects? What about cancer effects? All these different things, because the spike proteins now hanging out after post-shot. They have proved that in studies. So we don't know the long term. And it is targeting its higher concentrations in reproductive organs. I mean, it's like, wow, all this information and just for a certain job right now, man, okay. I guess you're just writing all that off in the long term. So thinking long term, it's just do the risk versus gain, which is a quick filter. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's easy for like a guy like me that's I had to go to school for a year to have my job, and it was easy. I mean, I was back in those days, I think I was drunk most of the time. I was at barber school. But anyway, there's people that have spilled their guts, between these doctors and nurses that have really had to lay it all on the line to get their job. And I'm sure it's a different level of, holy crap, I've invested.
And they most of them do what they want to do. They love it. You know what I mean? They love helping people. They're not there because you're going to get rich, being a nurse. I mean, pretty much everybody I know that went into that field, they did it because they really want to help people and they thrive on it and it makes them happy. And it's like, it's their passion. Yeah. And now that's got to be pretty hard to walk away. That's not just a job. That's not just a paycheck.
No, and that was on the public safety side. That's the glue that keeps people in it. Having been in it for years, it is more of a calling. It's more of a passion because it's a little higher stress, higher training level, longer schooling. I tested for 6 years just to get in. Test after everything that was within my realm, the test and that I qualified for fire departments for 6 years. I mean, that's even rare.
And then it's ongoing training.
And it's ongoing. It doesn't stop. So it's thousands upon thousands of hours of dedication. And you're constantly feathering that family first versus job when you really break it down because of the dedication it takes to, or at least how I took the job. It was pretty serious. So then for me to walk away from it stuns a lot of people. It's shocking. It's definitely out of the norm. But I have my reasons, and now I'm stoked that I did it because it was a good evaluation at the time that I was in, and even right now. But for those people, now they're just getting that jerked, and they haven't had time to work through that. It's brutal. But I do think a lot of them, if you wait till the fire, I mean, I'm not an attorney, so this isn't legal advice, but go see an attorney, because if you wait till the firing and don't quit,
then you lose it. You lose it all then.
Yeah, if you just quit, you're going to lose it all if you don't wait for it to get fired. Yeah. You're not even going to have anything to fight for.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
That is. But you know what? The difference too is partly is those, in a lot of those jobs, if you're in the fire or say CHP, and I mean, they, in some ways, they've already had a lot of their liberty taken from them. Mm-hmm. You can't just go wherever you want and do whatever you want. And I mean, because they have department policy that says, you know, you won't be involved in certain things, or, I mean, because for instance, we had a gun show in Cottonwood, and we had to have security. We had guys spend the night because these guns were in this building overnight. So we all took turns, and one of my buddies at CHP signed up to take a shift, and he called me back and said, "Oh no, my lieutenant says I can't." Yeah. Can't volunteer for that. And I was thinking, well, it's on your off hours. Tell your lieutenant to pack sand, right? But they can't. So they're already a little more used to, almost kind of like the military. They're used to giving up a little more of their freedom.
Yeah, you're 100% accurate, and that's one of the things that wore me down. You know, is you don't have flexibility. A lot of the flexibility that you have being an entrepreneur or your own business owner, you're pretty pigeonholed. You know, to what you can do, earning dollars, what you want to do in your off time. You know, there's a lot of pressures, and that's what I mean, where your priority, it's real tight there. And doctors and nurses too. I mean, it's long shifts. It eats at you physically, mentally. It's high stress stuff. So yeah, it's hard to walk away from it, because then what else do you do? It's the stuff that makes you feel alive. You know, so you have to do a big pivot in your whole, how you're operating to make that move. That's a tough one. So
we had the Oroville City Council stand up, and maybe we could talk about a couple local victories. I like talking about these victories, man, because I feel like we're starting to see pushback, and you know, obviously the momentum's going this way, but I mean, Oroville voted 6-1 their city council to declare their city a constitutional republic, and they're not going to enforce or recognize any of these bogus laws or mandates. You know, pretty freaking epic. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just throw it up there real quick since we're talking about local. And we had another school locally stand up. Northern California, a 5-0 vote. The governing board of the Calaveras Unified School District decided at a Tuesday meeting not to enforce, support, or comply with Gavin Newsom's mandate, which would require all students at public, charter, and private schools to receive COVID-19 vaccines following full federal approval of shots for their grade span. But anyways, just showing more resistance, you know. Yeah. What a great job these guys are. I mean, there's people standing up all over the place. This is right here close to us, so I figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah. And that was...
You can pull it down, Eli.
I heard from a parent that went to the junction, or it was a Zoom meeting, from the way I understand it, but 2 of their school board representatives actually just resigned.
Really?
Because it really was reflective of the board of supervisors, right? They're sitting up there saying, well, that's not the majority. That's not the majority. Well, a couple of moms, you know, power to them. They said, I'm running a survey on our parents at Junction. Well, it ended up 90% were anti all the mandates. So a couple of the board members were just like, I can't follow that. I didn't realize that that's who I'm representing. And so I just resigned, which good, they resigned. But then I just thought to myself too, right on the back end of that, we need to go, okay, people are getting into these seats for the wrong reasons. You're supposed to represent just that, not your own agendas. That's not even the reason you're getting on that school board.
No.
You want to be able to serve your time, show up to meetings, do something good for your school, and then represent it. You're a representative. And I thought, man, is that like the board of supervisors? You're not the majority. We get a lot of emails and calls. I'm like, yeah, well, we're the people showing up, and we're most people running your businesses in this county. So right. What majority are we talking about? And they can't figure out to run a poll. 2 years in the running, and our board of supervisors can't put a little resource towards asking people what the people want out of them.
The Newsom recall should have been a little bit of a gauge as far as, because in Shasta County we voted to recall him.
Yep.
And Tehama County.
Yep.
So, in other words, we didn't like those lockdown policies. That's what that was all about. That's why that there was a majority of people voting that way, you know?
Yeah. There's indicators for sure. That would be a great one, but just do a poll direct. You know, I had that wild hair for a while and maybe run that, you know, and I'm thinking, no, that'll just get debunked. And, somebody ran a personal and they swung the results and all this and that. So I was like, that'd be a waste of my time because they'll sit up there and do the same thing. And that's what we started talking about. Well, maybe it's time to just take the power back to the people. And what does that look like? If there's a majority of people up here that want a constitutional republic like Orville did, take it. Well, I don't feel like I need to wait. I need these men, some more families, men, business owners to say, no, we're claiming it for this county. And that would spread. Again, I think that's majority. Well, now what do you say to that, supervisors? We have a signed document that we're a constitutional republic that way swings the majority. What do you do at that point? You know, because the power is in the people. Now you keep denying it, you know? Yeah,
we get rid of Modi in the recall election. And then now Joe's said he's not going to run again. Yeah. You know, I'm sure Mary won't. And even if she does, she'll get beat. So we're going to have a majority.
We got a lot of great candidates stepping up, you know, people that, you know, some of them have never even been involved in politics. I mean, they voted and stuff like that, but they've kind of, you know, they weren't really wanting to talk about those tough subjects that can get you in arguments with people. But now that it's like, it's gotten as bad as it has. I mean, we're seeing some superstars, you know, come out that they feel like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I am. And so I'm pretty excited that we got some stand-up people that seem like would do a really good job.
Yeah. And it's like I was texting with Carlos the other day, and it became clear to me, if I think about my lifetime, I just woke up to this political fight that needed to be fought. You know, I wasn't paying that close attention. You knew, you know, okay, the taxes keep going up. Whoa, when the gas tax hit, everybody was kind of, whoa, my registration. Everyone kind of shudders, and then you just figure it out because you're creative and it's a little easier to just make a little more money or quit spending over here and just deal with it, right? But then when COVID hit, it came right to our homes. Well, that was the wake-up moment. So we're 2 years in this political fight where there's some of these jerks online have been fighting for the left side and just commenting for I don't know how long, 5-10 years, or they live in the university system where they've just been indoctrinated with all this stuff, genders and all. I mean, all of it, right? The whole enchilada.
Just all based on hate.
And I was just living my life. I'm over here working a career, raising my family, running a business. Now I woke up to it. And so it's like, wait a second, I'm more like a white belt on the mat right now with this political stuff and the strategy it takes, the money it takes, all that it takes, right? How do I not comply? I haven't had to think about that. But now it's getting tyrannical. So white belt. I like that. It hit me, you know?
Listen, though, Lani, don't underestimate how powerful it is by leading by example. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Living healthy, creating an environment for people to get physically fit and just being, you know, you were already a leader in the community. And same with Woody. And, you know, so whether you've been out there, you know, getting gritty and involved like on a level that you are now, I mean, it makes a huge impact just by leading by example, you know. So
absolutely.
That's really important. So
I was late to the game as far as what to be focused on. I think, you know, I paid attention to national politics first and a little bit of state and hardly any local, you know.
Right.
And then it was a few years ago that I was listening to a radio show, and I think it was Glenn Beck that said, you know, hey, listen, you don't have a lot of effect on national politics. You can rage against the machine, but they're not going to hear you.
Yeah.
And really not even the state. You can go stand on the lawn or write some letters and they'll throw them in the garbage. But you can invite your local representatives right into your community. And that's kind of when we started doing that, you know. And but this COVID thing is what really made you realize, because the first move when we resisted, you know, we resisted and said, all right, we're not going to go along with this. And then we start looking for allies, right? And we're looking for protections. Right. And the obvious is, hey, well, our first line of defense is our supervisors. They got to stand up for us. And then when they didn't, and that was when that Alyssa McEwen moment where here's the mom with the bullhorn.
Yeah.
Shaking those dudes down, and they're scared to even let her in the chambers supposedly because of COVID, you know? Right. And people were like, hey man, they're not representing us.
Right.
you know, I think that if that's one of the good things that came out of this, I think it'll be a long time before we quit paying attention to local politics.
Oh,
again.
we can't ever take our eye off it. Certainly not our hand out of it either, because it's just it's people want to get in there for power and prestige, and
we will
do the racketeering
it
thing.
will happen. It's even if we get everything, as good as it can get, there's no perfect system. But even if we restore a bunch of power and a free a true free economy where we don't have this crony capitalism and all these corporations run every facet of our life,
right.
Because we will get lazy, we will get complicit, we're gonna, I mean, it's gonna happen, there's no doubt about it. There'll be a cycle where we have the pendulum swinging back and forth. So
and you're gonna have people moving here. There's a lot of people moving here from the Bay Area right now in LA, because they've realized they don't have to, they can work from home, and they'll get here, and if there's enough money behind other candidates, they can, it's, if we get these right candidates that we want in there, they're not going to be getting bought, and they're not going to be catering to these big businesses. They're going to keep things fair, constitutional. So it'll be a fight to hold those seats, but at least for a while, it's sure going to be.
So there's that old poster of Uncle Sam, freedom is not free, right?
Yeah.
Remember that famous poster?
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, and you see that, you know what I mean? You don't really understand it. And now, your perspective of that poster now is wow, okay, freedom isn't free. I get it.
Well, my filter always went to veterans or serving in the military.
Right.
When I thought it, and I'm like, oh wait, no, it's right here in our, right in our laps that we're fighting for it. And it is, for a majority of people, we're talking rookie year in this fight.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're going, what do I do? How do I help you guys? They see the red, white, and blueprint, and they're like, I am fired up. People are now like, when's the next episode? And I don't run that side of things, but
I just work here
for free.
Yeah, exactly.
I just work here for free.
But that's good.
I volunteer here.
It is. I mean, it's worthy to take a year to kind of assess of what. Don't just dive into one thing. Start realizing how you're not going to comply or plug in. Like we keep going over and over. School boards, grand jury, all those different options. And that's why Freedom Coalition's great, because it's kind of giving some framework to the person that's getting activated, and they are a rookie and they need some more information. What does it look like to live in this mindset? I had to go through a lot of that, because I'd left a government job. Then a year later, they tried to shut my business down, and I'm going through PTSD, and I'm going, what the heck is going on? I'm staring around like, shoot, somebody better club me. I don't know which way to go, So a lot of us are just trying to get traction, but that's okay. Your first day on the mats, you're probably going to be one of your most uncomfortable. So as you're realizing it and you're starting to come out and speak at a board or do whatever, it's going to be uncomfortable.
It needs that fresh energy, though. So many people, because people that have been doing this for a really long time, it's like they've been beating a dead horse for freaking decades, and now there's these people coming in, what can I do, and so these guys have been in it for a long time. They need people with that fresh energy to come in and just freaking fire things up, with some passion so I think it's awesome. Everybody is important. Everybody is just as important as anybody else. It's just the only difference is if you realize it or not. Right. And then, realizing it is one thing, and then acting on it is another piece. The action part is.
Yeah. And that's what's been, because so many people are coming to the government pillar in the Freedom Coalition, and there's all these different things, ways you can get involved. So I get in our small group and I say, you can go to school board meetings, you can run for school board, you can go become part of the grand jury. There's just lots of ways to plug in. And then I noticed a second breakout meeting. They all came back and they're all just sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, so what'd you guys do this week? And they're still like, oh, well, it's like, no, this is I gave you some things. You have the paperwork, man. Now it's on you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But they're just not sure how to do it. It's because it's all new.
It's foreign. You're a rookie, and that's fine. But start just digging. Whether you start looking into OSHA code if you're a business owner, or whether you start looking at what your options truly are, your employee rights, if you're getting stuff coming down the line. All that is just gonna help rise the people against this whole thing. So it's just funny that really, man, I'm really a rookie. I'm a white belt. I keep getting tapping on everybody, getting choked out.
I want to see people keep freaking just putting the pressure on the board, the school boards, on the board of supervisors, on the city council, on the, the health and human services. I want to see people just keep applying the pressure, man, because I don't know what's going through the minds of some of these politicians that are representatives that have been in all across the U.S., on a local level. People are going, I mean, nothing like this has ever happened in the United States where there's this many people getting involved in government and applying this kind of pressure to, these people treated us, there's a lot of good people, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of these people that, they're just used to treating us like peasants, and they think that they're, they don't realize that they work for us. And now I think that with all this pressure being applied, they're starting to realize, man, it's like these pitchforkers are coming, and I'm
look at the school board, that resigned. Oh, I didn't realize I was representing these people. I can't represent. What the heck?
Yeah,
what were you thinking?
Look, the DOJ and FBI are trying to say, hey, look, you guys are going to be terrorists and you're the enemies. So what? Everyone says, you know what? Flip you the bird. We don't care what you think. We're still going to go down.
Yep.
And how crazy is that they're going to set up hotlines for
so bad.
It's like they want to scare you away from even going down and exercising your First Amendment rights, and standing up for your kids. And now they're trying to put you in some kind of terrorist category. It's freaking wild, man. I mean, this is just a total inversion of reality.
And being in California, we are in the front, right? They kind of let Newsom run, right? And then the rest of the country will follow California. So if you think, that was one thing I was talking to some friends about this weekend. We got to drop the language that California is gone. Because then you're writing off the country if you look at history. If you say, I can't fight for California and it's gone, we lost that a long time ago, this place is written off, the country historically has followed us. So you just gave up the country. So if you're moving somewhere else thinking that that's going to change it and you're giving up California, when has it not trended towards the inside from the coast? Right? I'm pretty sure there hasn't been anyone that stayed completely outside of those influences, because we're seeing these battles across the whole country. So California is not lost. Don't say that language. If I go into a sparring match with Woody and I say, well, Woody's going to kick my ass, well, probably going to happen. Well, if I'm sitting here saying California's gone, what am I fighting for? Well, you're probably right. But I don't believe that. And it's going to change the way I approach each day and the way I encounter people and fight. And that's important when we're in this battle.
Do things that you have control of. You have control of what we have right here in these counties, and you can get involved. So, you need to fight just like that. What was that congressman's name?
Clay Higgins.
Clay Higgins, man. That's the guy right there. That guy, that speech. I think we should play that one more time if we can as a closer.
Yeah.
You got time for that, Eli? Next week, I want to tell everybody too. Next week we'll be covering the Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty verdict, and I just want to tell you that I've watched this whole thing all along, and what that kid did was heroic. A lot of people say, "Oh, what was he doing there with a gun?" Well, what the hell were the BLM and Antifa protesters doing there, burning the city down? Is the question you should have asked. And where was the government? And where were the cops? And where was the National Guard? Why weren't they there stopping it? And there's a 17-year-old kid running around with an AR. Shoot, I know lots of World War II veterans, Korean War veterans that joined when they were 16 years old, and they were there spilling their guts for this country. So I don't want to hear any more of that bullshit. So let's hear this guy one more time before we close.
Ladies and gentlemen, the oppressor's intent is for you to comply with their mandates and commands. They don't expect for you to comply with their commands until the end of COVID. They expect you to comply with their commands until the end of time. Let me be very clear to all you oppressors. You've drawn a line in the sand. Be prepared to defend your position, because some of us are free Americans and we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. If you want to get a vaccine, get it. If you don't. That's called freedom. Freedom is what's at stake, and some of us are prepared to carry that fight with every drop of our blood. On January the 3rd, 2023, Republicans will be sworn into the majority in this House behind us here. The hallowed halls of Congress shall once again be under the control of Republican conservatives. On that day, myself and many of my colleagues will introduce legislation to reinstate my military brothers and sisters with full pay back into your rank. So stay hard, stay strong, stay in shape. We're going to get you back in your slot. And to my business brothers and sisters out there, do not comply. Use Article 3. Put your attorneys to work. Stand your ground. You have about a year to make it and survive. You can do it. But stand for freedom, and you'll find yourself in the company of patriots from sea to shining sea.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Can't top that.